Hey you, and welcome. In this video, we will install our first NPM package into our Node application, and we will start utilizing the code using some code samples from the documentation. So let's dive right into it. I have in front of me the first Node application that we created before, and what I'm going to do is install a new package. But first thing first, we have to pick a package that we're going to work with. In this case, I've already picked one, and I'll go over to Firefox. And that's the Nope package that I want to work with, which gives me random quotes from the show, and I just want to show them in the console. To install that, if I scroll down, I can see that there is a script called to setup. You have to run npm install nope. Even if there is a package that doesn't have this in the documentation, you can always use npm install, and whatever is the name of the package in npmjs.com, just use that and you should be able to install that package. Great. I will head over to my terminal and run npm install nope. Make sure you're in the code first node application or first node app folder before you run that. If you run this command outside of that folder, nothing really bad happens. It's just that you're not going to install it in your application. You're just going to install it somewhere else. No big deal. Pressing enter, and that should download the package for me. 0 vulnerabilities. Great. It added one package. Audited 2 packages. So you may be wondering, what are these other 2 packages? Node modules are used by other modules, but these modules can also use other modules inside Node module. So they get very dense. So there could be modules using other modules and modules using other modules. It goes deeper and deeper levels and levels. And that's why you're seeing many packages. And if we head over to our VS Code, you can see that there's a few changes that have happened after running that script. One of them is in package.json, we now have a dependencies that wasn't there before, dependencies key, and has nope and the version of the package that was installed, which is 1.1.2, which is great. So that's first change. Second change is we now have a package log file. Package log file, don't worry too much about it. Only thing is just going to maintain the credibility of the dependencies that you work with. So many developers, when they're sharing the environments or sharing the project, they don't download versions that are contradictory to the ones the project is working with. In this case, 1.1.2 for Nope package. So that's another one. And the big one here is the node underscore modules. Now, the reason why I call it the big one is because working on an enterprise project, or even a project that you build by yourself, but you're going to work with a React framework or Angular framework, any framework, node modules is the first thing to start bloating up, and you can see your repo turning into from 1 kilobyte, 2 kilobyte, 10 kilobyte to like 100 megabytes, GBs in some cases, 2 GBs. That can happen because node modules use that. We'll talk more about that later maybe, but just know that node modules is where all the modules are, in this case nope. And so this nope package inside node modules also has a package.json, just like all the node modules. They will all have package.json, and we can see the entry file here is nope.js. So if I go to nope.js, I can see the code. Just know that node underscore modules is where all the packages, all the dependencies for the project will live. All right. So how do we utilize that in our project? If I go to index.js and I will just delete the code that we have right now, I'll head over to the Firefox, and we have our code sample in the basic usage section of the documentation. I'll copy paste that. And my VS Code is set up so that it formats the document for me automatically. So if I save it right now, it will just format it. All it's doing is taking away extra white spaces or extra lines that are not necessary for the code, but leaving the code as is. Now notice at the top we have a require statement. Now that's the old Node.js way of doing things. Some code may still be utilizing it. It's not really that old, but I prefer working with import nope from nope. String value nope, and then entering that. So that should do the same thing as require. The reason why I have to use import rather than require is because, remember in the previous video, in package.json, I changed the type of the module from a regular type, whatever the default type may be, which is common.js, I believe, is changed to module. And module would mean that now we can use this new way of importing, which is very nice, and we can destructure things, which is pretty cool too. So yeah, that's it. If I save this, and now if I go back to my terminal, run my code, I can do npm run start. Now I can also do npm start. Start is the only script I believe where you can do just npm start shorthand and it will just know to run the script start from your package.json. But other commands you have to put npm run and then the script name. So I'll just go with shorthand for now. I'll say npm start. There we go. It's giving me a compliment and you prosperous jaguar. If I do it again, let's see if I can play with that. Oh, yeah, it did change. All right. There we go. All right, perfect. So yeah, that's how you work with dependencies in any project. Once the dependencies are there, let me show you what you need to do with pushing that code to share with other users, because remember what I mentioned about node modules, they get a little big, they get very heavy, and you don't want to upload that all the time. Every time you push the code, it changes. So what we do is there's also another file that we can create, and this is coming from GitHub, where you can have a .gitignore file, and .gitignore file tells GitHub which files or which folders do you want to ignore that should not go to GitHub, which is very useful. There are a few files that we would never push to GitHub. In this case, node_modules would always be there. Oops, sorry, pressing too many keys. Node_modules, that should save, and now that would mean that node modules will not be pushed to GitHub. And another thing that we're going to do for our module here is create a documentation, just like on Firefox, where you can see this documentation for this package. It has a setup section and a basic usage section. In our case, all we're going to show is the setup section, and we're going to tell what kind of commands you need to run to be able to work with our code. And to do that, if I go back to my code in VS Code, I'll right click, create a new file, and type in readme capital R .md. .md files are markdown files. There's a whole documentation on GitHub. It's not complicated at all. You can just write text and it would work. However, it does have a little bit of a markup that you can learn, which makes it easy for you to write some good documentation without having to format it too much using some other tools. Let me show you what I mean. So I have this extension installed. Extensions. I have Markdown. Great. So I have Markdown all-in-one installed. You can install that as well. And when you do that, if I hide my file explorer right now, I can do Command-Shift-P, and I can search for Markdown related commands. And in this case, I have Open Preview at the top, which is great. That's exactly what I need. I'll press Enter, and you can see that a README preview has opened up. I'll split the screen. I'll just drag it over to the right. So I have README MD on the left and preview on the right, and I can see what the file looks like when it's being viewed on the web browser, which is great. That's exactly what I wanted. So first thing would be I need a heading, and heading in Markdown is a hashtag space heading, which you can see on the right side is showing a large heading. If I wanted a heading 2, a smaller heading, 2 hashtags, heading 2, 3 hashtags, heading 3, so on and so forth. I believe it goes to heading 3 is the max, maybe. Let me just try. I think so. Yeah, I think heading 4 didn't really do anything. So yeah, we're going to start with heading 1, which would be our package name. So random complement generator. Great. And then next thing would be a second heading, which would be setup. And in the setup, we would say to run this project, run the following commands. All right, underneath I can provide a sample shell command that we can work with. So in this case, first install the dependencies. So whoever downloads this from GitHub or from npmjs.com, they can run npm install. That would be the first script to run. And then the second one would be to run npm start, which would generate a command for you. Notice that it doesn't look too great. The Firefox one has this nice little border for the npm scripts, which highlights it that this is the script. In order to do that, all we do is 3 tilde at the top, 3 tilde at the bottom. There we go. And then same 3 tilde at the top, 3 tilde at the bottom. Oops. And tilde key is the one before number 1 on your keyboard. So it's all the way to the left, doesn't get too much love, but that's the one that I'm using here, and 3 tildes. Great, I'll save that, and that's my README for my project. Great, I'll see you all in the next video.